Welcome to Stories from the River. I'm Kim Harkness.
And I'm Tyler Trill.
We're filling in for Charlie Maloof today. So today we're talking about corporate communications. You lead that team.
I do.
Yeah.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
At the River, it's a pretty new department. Only been there for a few years. We started this department a couple of years ago and brought you on. Congratulations. By the way, I just got a light bulb moment. 2 years with us here at the River.
2 years.
2 years.
Almost to the day.
Wow. Okay. So a lot has happened in 2 years. And corporate communications has come a long way in 2 years at the River. So let's go back. I'll take us from a small journey, and then I'm going to push that over to you to talk about where you've taken it, because it really has come a long way. When I joined 7 years ago, our corporate communications were Word documents, and the journey now has moved so fast, and we are now talking to our people in a much different way. It was Word documents twice a week, and we didn't have a way to talk to our folks. So tell us what goes on and how we push out messages to our folks.
Sure. Well, we're still trying to kind of navigate the way that we communicate with our internal folks and our external folks. I mean, from my experience in this profession, this field, you got to stay on top of it. We got an ever-changing landscape in the way that we communicate with just everybody, internally and externally. So right now, we're focused on improving our internal communications in a big way. We're going to upgrade the newsletter. We're going to get an internal communications platform that I've told you, I think will revolutionize the way that Broad River Retail communicates internally. And then we're making a big push on LinkedIn, on social media. So we're tailoring and we're fixing that the strategy and the way that we post and what we're talking about on LinkedIn. We're always looking at the way we're doing that and how can it be better. So those are kind of our two main focuses right now in the communications department as we head into Q2 when we're filming this podcast. So we've got a exciting 2024 with some other exciting projects down the pipeline. But for right now, that's what we're focused on.
Talk to me about the why. The why, you already mentioned it right off the top. It's not a subject that people, but really we're talking about communications. Well, isn't that inherent? We should all be talking to each other, and it's especially for this is a show we really focus on our people and our retail, but really when you're connecting with each other, it is about communications, regardless if it's internal or external. And so you already mentioned a few channels of how we're going about that: LinkedIn, newsletters, and how are you going to reach more folks? Because there are so many different ways. It can be cluttering, right? There's so many different ways to consume the messages. So tell me how to get through that.
We're asking ourselves that every day. And I think every department, I think every company is asking themselves, how are we going to reach more folks? So our process at Broad River, and when I say it's kind of mine, since I've been a lone wolf in the communications department for a while. We're excited that we just brought on a communication specialist to, bolster the content creation and the amount of messaging that we can put out there, which is exciting. But how is, and I told you this from early on, we're not going to boil the ocean. We're going to have real specific focus areas in specific channels, and we're going to try to own those, make those, as elevated as possible, and then we'll move on and try to expand once we feel like we're in a good comfort area.
So let's talk about our town halls and the importance of our town halls, the cadence of our town halls, and what we cover, what we want to make sure that we are telling or talking to our memory makers about during those town halls.
while we're recording this, we're about to have a town hall Q2 Thursday, Friday.
Right.
So I don't think this podcast is going to be out in time, but if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed it. For town halls, this has been a process that I've been a part of since I came on.
Let me take it back. Can I tell you something? Okay, so where it started, let's talk about how the town halls started. Back in 2020, I wish we could just erase that number out of our vocabulary, 2020. Back in 2020, when COVID, the pandemic hit, we really didn't have a great way to talk to our folks about things that they needed to know, the safety, work, how it was going to be done, things that they needed to know. We had the currents. Not everyone could, read the currents. That was really an internal in SharePoint. And so we had different ways of communicating to our people even back then. And the one way that we decided was going to be a great way to get everyone the same information at the same time was the town hall. That was how it was born. And we communicated monthly. We had one every month because, again, it changed so fast. And anyone could dial in, listen to it, watch it on their phone, watch it on their computers. So that's how it started. And once we came out of the pandemic, I believe we shifted how we were using the town halls, but still we maintain that it was one of the most important ways to talk to our population about things that were going on in the company.
I would still identify it as our most important internal communication channel that we have. We always know the numbers are going to be up there. Or viewer numbers are going to be up. And in a time where we, even at our workplace and at home, we're fighting for people's attention at all times. And I think the town hall for us consistently proves to be the one time that we know we're going to have 400, 500 people's attention all at once. And it's a really powerful way for, Charlie and Manny and our other leaders to speak one-on-one with our memory makers, kind of look them in the eye essentially through that Zoom lens and say, this is what's going on. And, I think Charlie does a great job, even when maybe things aren't going the greatest for Broadway retail. He does a great job in, telling our people, here's truly what's going on, and kind of level setting with them. Here's our expectations and how we're going to get through this. So I have a strange relationship with the town halls because
now you're kind of the Oz behind the curtain.
Yes. And sometimes it's a frustrating process to create.
Right.
It's
a show.
Town hall.
It's a mini show.
Yeah. However, 10 o'clock on Fridays, I always feel it's a good sense of relief, but we haven't had any big hiccups since I've been on the team, and I'm pretty happy with the way, if you look at, I guess, April 22 to April 24, how the town halls have evolved during the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's a consistent resource for our memory makers to get their news, good or bad. And to your point, it's very important for Charlie, for Manny, for our leaders to provide that transparency, even when it's not the greatest of news. It is still, the message is what it is, and that's, you got to talk about the good and the bad. So let's talk about our social media platforms, specifically LinkedIn. And I'll go back again 2 years ago. We really didn't have a lot of content on that channel. And let's talk about the importance of why LinkedIn and how's it going?
Initially, when I laid out what we should do socially, I started at LinkedIn because we kind of had the advantage. We had an established presence of a following there. So we weren't going to have to work or pay to get our content out to a lot of people. We could start with LinkedIn. We had a solid base in a following there. If we have a consistent posting regimen and we're constantly getting out stories about things that happening within Broad River Retail, and also further telling the stories of our memory makers on LinkedIn, that we'll gain some momentum and we'll get a following there.
Where
So
did you get your inspiration for some of that? When you and I talked about strategy a couple of years ago about LinkedIn,
sure.
you brought to me, some examples and what was inspiring and what people were really looking at.
I have no LinkedIn experience prior to Broad River Retail. I barely was on there. I was strictly on there just to apply for positions, and then if my profile was seen by someone, I wanted to make sure I had a picture up there in my background. I mean, I did not engage with the platform whatsoever. Things that I was engaging with when I kind of initially laid out our social media strategy was Twitter. Obviously, I get a big sports
A lot of
fan,
sports on
so
Twitter,
I
yeah.
mean that's what it is. It's sports and it's live events in news. So brought you examples of just the way NFL teams were communicating with their fan base beyond the X's and O's, I guess, or the game results. I think sports teams like NFL and MLB, those are the two that I engage with the most, do a great job of always finding their way onto your news feed and always reminding you, um, or grabbing your attention just about different minute stories happening within their organizations and with their players and their coaches. So that was where the inspiration has come from. I now say, like 2 years into this, LinkedIn is like one of two social media platforms I strictly use. It's like I don't even use Twitter anymore. It's Instagram and it's LinkedIn. So finding a lot of inspiration just from Fortune 500 companies. I've brought you examples of how Walmart tells their story on
And
LinkedIn,
Lowe's.
and Lowe's.
Yeah. Great job on
There's
that.
some local. There's a local plug for their
You're welcome,
LinkedIn.
Lowe's. I'll send you a bill.
So I love the way Walmart engages with their following and how they tell the stories, not only of their employees, but also the growth of their company and the story of their stores and things of that nature. So that's where I'm getting inspiration now, and I'm really excited actually about where we are with the social media I guess process, because we spent the last year doing calculated posts,
Learning.
but
A lot of
mostly
learning.
trying to learn what our audience engaged with, what they're interested in. And now that we've done that for a year, we've done our homework. I think we're in a really good place to finally launch some real targeted and narrowed focused social campaigns in elevated storytelling on our LinkedIn page.
Yeah, because you mentioned LinkedIn, to your point. I mean, I've been on the platform for several years, and it is really a lot of people go there certainly to find their new jobs or to connect with other like-minded individuals in the business world. And you've done a great job about telling the story beyond just find a new job or come here and work with us because we're great. It's more than that. It becomes now it is a messaging. It is messaging to more than just those searching to come to work at the river, but it's a platform that people at the river use to get their news as well. So quick question. I want to pivot real quick. How do you consume news? How do you get your messages? Everyone's different, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun because, and I ask this question because sitting where I in my seat, leading the marketing and communications department, it is a real challenge sometimes to talk to so many different generations, from someone in their 20s to someone in their 60s. Everyone gets their news differently. Matter of fact, Fun fact, I was in the airport the other day. I stopped into the little convenience store, and a lady behind me, she was kind of looking around at the register, and she says, "Excuse me." She said, "Do you know where they sell the newspapers?" And I looked over at her, and I was like, "I don't know that they do." The lady behind the cash register said, "Yeah, we haven't had paper here in a few years." And I'm like, "Oh, like, yeah, shoot me in my heart right now," because I love a newspaper. But I get my news obviously on a device now. So tell me how you consume.
I love a newspaper too.
Really?
I don't read it that often.
What do you do with it? Just watch a dog on the nose with it? I mean,
uh,
it's, come
well,
on.
when I'm at my local Harris Teeter in
Yeah,
waiting for my Starbucks, they have the rack of newspapers there, so
really.
I always grab the Charlotte Observer, look
Mhm.
at what's on the front page. So I'll do that once or twice a week. When I go home and I see my parents, I'll read our local newspaper as well. Those are the only times I'm interacting with a newspaper at this point in my life. The way I consume news, for just general news, things that are going on throughout the world, I subscribe to an email newsletter in just a manner in which I like to consume it at this point. So that's just general news. I would say I get a lot of news through podcasts at this point, just because the news that I care about is mainly Major League Baseball news or like PGA news,
Guardians, right? Guardians. Yeah.
Guardians, but at this point, I like all the teams. I want to know what's going on. So
Just ready for baseball.
yeah, so through podcasts, and then you know I'll hop on Twitter maybe once a week, just scroll, see what's going on there, and then uh, the Furniture Today daily newsletters where I get some industry highlights and things going on within the business. So uh, I would say I consume news through a ton of different means. However, I know, whatever I'm interested in learning about or what's going on in the world, I'll figure out some sort of way to consume it. So my news consuming isn't consistent. I would say platform wise, but throughout through the means at which I
It's
get it.
interesting that you say that because it's not consistent how you get it. You're not married to one particular platform. It's again, I think it goes back to how people are getting. If it's just in your face, that you just got to get in front of their face. It doesn't matter what platform it's on. You just got to make sure you're out there saying, "Hey, look at me, listen to me." Videos, certainly a lot of folks consume video content for their news source.
Yeah, I mean, there are some certain subjects that I rather just watch a 20-minute YouTube deep dive on. There's the LinkedIn news feed, those top 5 stories of
Mhm.
things that are going on in your news feed that I'll read those. So um, there isn't a consistency to how I'm getting news. Um, but I think that is for everybody. There is no consistent, there's so many platforms, there's so many different ways to become informed and learn about topics, that however you see fit is how you're going to get your news.
And I think AI is going to change the game too. I mean, it's that's the big unknown as we get into this, next phase. First, it was the web, and now it's going to be life changes, the AI platforms, and how that's going to change how we get it to. I think one news story now instead of being siloed, it's just going to be explosive. I think it's just going to be fast paced and wow, just buckle up. I think it's going to be an overload of communications. So if in a sense, if you don't wanna know about it, then you just need to plug your ears and close your eyes because it's gonna be in front of you, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, our phones are so connected to us at this point, and they just become a part of our daily lives and daily routines. Yeah, if everything's going to be in your face.
Yeah. So, next for the river, you talked about new platforms, talking about, the currents. The currents is our newsletter and how we push out on a weekly basis. and really breaking down silos. That's the next, I think, big project for us, is to make sure that we have consistent communication across all areas of our business, whether you're in our warehouses or in the stores or a part of our corporate population. It hasn't been a consistent way to get it out there, other than through town halls, or if they choose to read the currents, and that's pulling the information versus getting it pushed to you. So, very excited about that. The next generation of our newsletters. Anything you want to add about that?
I mean, I'm looking forward to what's to come. I think a challenge that we've often talked about, and that I haven't had experience addressing before I worked at Broad River um, is sometimes how siloed our communication feels, and it's not anyone's fault, or it's not as if we were trying to make that happen. But we have 31 stores throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, one in Georgia. We have three
Three
distribution centers,
DCs.
two corporate offices. So we're pretty spread out, and it's tough. It's very
Fast. It's
tough.
fast. Yeah.
It's fast and it's tough to make sure that you're getting the news in everyone's hands, because obviously we know the memory maker experience in Augusta is different from the memory maker experience in Four Oaks, which is different from the memory maker experience in Arden, and all across the board. So these are challenges that that I think about and I'm trying to address, and we'll be doing some further engagement with our memory makers in delivering straight to your inbox. How do you want us to communicate to you? What do you want to see and what we communicate, and how can we better communicate with you? So interested in finding out those results, and kind of where we go from there after we find them out.
It's like you said, it's not a very it can be a snoozeville of a topic for like communications. Really, you're doing a podcast on communications, but it really is important. It really connects us all together, is communicating and how we do that. So I'm very excited to watch the next chapter this next year, see where the growth for the department goes, to see how we are better communicating across all of our population with the memory makers. Very excited about that. Before we go,
Sure.
I bet you consumed some TV this weekend. You talked about Augusta. There was a that rung a bell there. Augusta National.
Mm.
Oh, let's talk about the Masters real quick before you go. I know it's near and dear to your heart.
Favorite sporting event of the year. I like it more than the Super Bowl. I like it more than the World Series. Augusta, Saturday and Sunday specifically, I think is must-watch live television. So
Are you happy with the results?
He's the best in the world, Scotty Scheffler. I think naturally at Augusta, you're going to have great storylines, no matter who's at the top of the leaderboard. However, going into Sunday, you had a really strong final two pairings, the top four golfers. And for the first 8 holes, it was awesome. It was 4 guys tied.
They were tied.
I believe.
Yeah.
And you really felt, man, this could go any which way. However, Scotty Scheffler showed, kind of in a Tiger Woods-esque way, I'm number one for a reason. And just watching his iron shots into the greens compared to the rest of the top guys was truly incredible. So
I had it on. I like to watch the Masters on Sunday. Not a big golfer, but I do like to watch the Masters. I think it's just one of those, it's the rite of passage into spring. It really kicks off the spring, more so for me than I know baseball is certainly America's sport, but I like to watch it on Sunday. And shamelessly, I was like, I'm waiting for that phone call from his wife to see if he really would walk off the golf course if his wife went into labor. I think he would have. I know he would have. But yeah, you're just waiting for that, for the extra news drama there in the golfing event. So
On Sunday, ultimately, you're hoping for someone to just absolutely dominate the competition, which he did on the back
he did.
nine, or like a really congested leaderboard, which we had for a while. And you hate to root against anybody, but an absolute meltdown by someone. We didn't really have that. We had it a little bit, but I thought it was one of my favorite Masters that I've consumed within the last few years, and I thought it was a great tournament.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. Okay, on to baseball, and you back to work. You got lots to do this year, Tyler. So I think that'll do it for Stories from the River.
Sounds good. I got to get going on that town hall today.
Yeah, you got to get going. We got things to do. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.